What's up guys, in today's video I'm gonna talk about this vintage lens, the Canon FD 70-210 f4. I just bought this lens only 50 bucks, or in rupiah around 800,000 rupiah, which is so cheap. But before explaining everything why this lens so worth to having in your gear, just play the intro guys. First thing first is gonna be the build quality of this lens. The build quality of this lens is a build like a tank with metal and plastic. They mix together. That's why this lens is so strong. Which is already 2025, and this lens release was 1980s, I guess. And the aperture ring here, you can rotate like whatever you want it, and then the zoom ring here, it's so smooth. You can zoom and focusing at the same time, which is so handy. But this lens weight 756 gram, which is not the lightest, also not the heaviest. It's still manageable when you put in your bag, And the optical performance of this lens, it's so sharp when you do f4, but it getting sharper when you do f5.6 to f8, and getting soft toward the edge, especially at 210. However, it's performed admirable for age and design. And the color rendering of this lens is natural to slightly warm with vintage filmic character that many digital shooters find appealing. Contrast is lower than modern lenses wide open, but improved significantly when stopped down. It's part of what gives this lens its unique signature. And the bokeh of this lens, I think, is so smooth. It's not that creamy, but the highlight in the out of focus area can show a bit shape, especially when stopped down. Still, the overall rendering is pleasing, especially for portraits and isolating subject at longer focal length. And next thing that I want to say, that chromatic aberration for this lens is the character of a vintage lens, and especially in high contrast scene and wide open, it's so noticeable. Yeah, this vintage lens is not perfect, but yeah, it's still manageable and usable. And the distortion, it's a minimum. Yeah, the it's normal for like a zoom lens like this. But when you have like the scene, a lot of a lot of light, natural light like that, the vignetting is worse. I just realized that I was filming on the hills, and then the sun is already up, and then yeah, just filming myself and a friend of mine. And when I editing, is the vignetting is worse, and yeah, I don't know how to manage that vignette, but yeah, it is what it is. I just want to mention that. And this lens is vignetting a lot when you have a lot of light, like sunlight, something like that, especially in the middle of the day, And my experience using this manual focus of this lens is so smooth, and you can zoom and focusing at the same time, and just using a focus picking on Sony Fx3 or any other cameras is gonna be really good and sharp when you know how to use it, And in order to use this lens, you have to buy adapter like Canon FD to Sony mount, so you can attach this lens into my Sony Fx3 or any other camera. Just buy an adapter. It's so easy to find on the market. And for video shooters, this lens is a gem, it's like you find something new, because in modern lenses you cannot really find the look that this lens produces, because this lens has a character of vintage lens, film look, and little bit soft chromatic aberration. The use experience with this lens is so huge, because it manual focus, you cannot touch the screen easily, and then you need to framing, and you need to focusing, and you need to zooming. So it's a lot of work, but it's worth it to having because the price is cheap. And anyway, the pros of this lens is excellent build quality, smooth manual focus, constant f4 aperture, great value for money. the character rich rendering, ideal for vintage look in video. And the cons of this lens is manual focus only, slightly soft wide open at 210, chromatic aberration in high contrast scene, click aperture not ideal for smooth video transition. And the conclusion about this lens, I think still this lens is worth to having because the price and the character that this lens produce for your videos or for your photos, even though it has so high chromatic aberration, but the look has its own character, you know. The manual focus still I think is so easy to use, and when you hold it already like few weeks, you know how to use it, and at the same time you can focusing, it's so handy, you know. And yeah, when you attach this lens with modern camera like my Sony Fx3 or any other camera that you have, this lens give a character that modern lens doesn't have. For example, the flares. A lot of modern lens doesn't allow the flares bothering your image, but this lens, when you want to look vintage or film look, yeah, the flare from this lens is so nice to have, you know. And yeah, I hope this review can give you a little bit knowledge about this vintage lens if you want to buy cheap vintage lens and you doesn't know what the looks of vintage lens, so you can have an idea what the project that you want to use this lens, you know, or you want to buy this lens because of my video. Yeah, I think that's it for now, and I'll catch you in the next one, guys. Peace.